The move to lay off staff is the latest cost-cutting measure by Singapore Airlines due to COVID-19. It's thought to be the first time since the SARS outbreak back in 2003 that the national carrier has taken such a drastic move. Well, here are some key dates reflecting how SIA has struggled through the year so far. In March, SIA announced that it would cut 96% of its scheduled capacity, grounding almost 140 planes from its fleet. The following month, some staff members started taking compulsory no paid leave. Now, its management team also saw further pay cuts after an earlier round in February. Its chief executive saw his wages cut by about 30%. And 2 months later, the company managed to raise $10 billion in fresh funding to deal with the shutdown. But it proved to be insufficient as SIA saw deeper salary cuts in the month of July, with all other staff below managerial level getting a 10% wage reduction. SIA also offered early retirement for its ground staff and pilots. And then just last month, cabin crew were offered the option of early release or retirement, with the voluntary release scheme open to those on probation as well. And still, these measures, they weren't enough to prevent the latest job cuts.
And following SIA's announcement, Transport Minister Ong Ye Kung says the government will do all it can to support the affected workers. He adds that the vast majority of those laid off are foreigners. Mr. Ong says the job cuts involve familiar faces like those ensuring planes are boarded efficiently on time and cabin crew whose uniforms have become a symbol of pride for Singapore. He says authorities will work with the labour movement and industry partners to place those retrenched in new jobs, help them switch to other industries or sign up for training programs. And more importantly, Mr. Ong says the country will continue to press on in its efforts to get air travel off the ground again safely. Labour Chief Ng Chee Meng says the news brought a deep sense of loss and sadness, even though it didn't come as a shock. He says unions and management have been trying to mitigate retrenchment over the past few months. Even though the outcome wasn't as desired, he appreciates their unwavering efforts. The Labour Movement's Deputy Secretary-General adds that the movement stands ready to assist in any way it can. It will also continue working with SIA Group on training opportunities for the rest of its workforce. Help will be provided to those whose incomes have been impacted. At the same time, the Singapore Airlines Staff Union's chief says parties have been in negotiation for weeks. He says even with earlier efforts to cut costs, it would not have been possible for SIA to carry so many staff. The Airline Pilots Association says they are still in talks with SIA Group and have declined to comment further.